Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Hall, President of the Women's Congressional Policy Institute, WCPI. Welcome to this afternoon's virtual congressional briefing on women veterans and migraine. For more than 15 years, we have hosted an annual event honoring women veterans, a tradition we plan on continuing for many more years to come. As many of you know, WCPI is a nonpartisan, nonprofit public policy organization whose mission is to bring together a community of bipartisan women policymakers and trusted partners to advance issues of importance to women, develop the next generation of women leaders, and foster a more effective and representative democracy. We work closely with the members and staff of the Bipartisan Congressional Caucus for Women's Issues. I would like to thank our congressional briefing co-sponsors, the leadership of the Women's Caucus, Congresswomen Madeleine Dean and Jenniffer González-Colón, co-chairs, and Congresswomen Lucy McBath and Cammack, vice chairs. Our thanks to our longtime partners, DAV and the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, IAVA. We are grateful to DAV and IAVA for their partnership and work on behalf of women veterans for many years. We are grateful to AbbVie and Lundbeck LLC for making this briefing possible. We appreciate both companies' support for women veterans' healthcare and their work to deliver innovative medicines, research, and transformative therapies to improve the lives of patients. And our thanks to the Headache and Migraine Policy Forum and the Association of Migraine Disorders for their assistance with this event. We thank today's speakers, Dr. Jason Zico, Ms. Eula Moore Marshall, Staff Sergeant Samantha Aquino, and Ms. Caitlin Hetrick, each of whom will be introduced shortly. We also welcome Congresswomen Lucille Roybal-Allard, Amata Coleman-Radewagen, and Jan Schakowsky, who are attending today's briefing at some point. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Irene Trowell-Harris, former director of the Center for Women Veterans, the first African-American woman to achieve the rank of Major General in the U.S. National Guard, a longtime supporter of our organization, and a former panelist at this event. Lastly, before we begin, on behalf of WCPI and our partners today, I would like to thank any attendees who have served or are currently serving in the military. If we were in person, I would ask each of you to stand. We thank you for your service and for joining us today. We will not forget. We are hopeful that by providing this platform for these women veterans to share their experiences, this discussion will raise awareness to the realities of living with migraine and reported links for migraine disorder, including toxic exposures and traumatic brain injuries. If you would like to tweet about this event, we encourage you and others to do so by using the hashtag WCPIVets. I'm now pleased to introduce Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, Democratic co-chair of the Bipartisan Congressional Caucus for Women's Issues. Congresswoman Dean is serving her second term representing the 4th District of Pennsylvania, and she serves on the Financial Services and Judiciary Committees. Congresswoman Dean has made women veterans and migraine priorities in her work. She helped launch the Women Veterans Task Force to ensure that more than 2 million women veterans have access to the healthcare, benefits, and resources they have earned. She also introduced bipartisan legislation to raise awareness of migraine disease and headache disorders.
I'm Madeleine Dean, and I serve the 4th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. And this session, I serve as the co-chair of the Bipartisan Women's Caucus and the Caucus for Women's Issues. Though I can't be with you all today, I am pleased to join you virtually. And I want to thank my co-chair, Congresswoman Jenniffer González-Colón, and our vice chairs, Congresswomen Lucy McBath and Cammack, for helping bring us all together. Thank you also to the Women's Congressional Policy Institute, DAV, and Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. Finally, thank you to our speakers, Jason J. Zico, MD, National Director of the VA's Headache Centers of Excellence, Eula Moore Marshall, combat veteran of the United States Army Reserves, Samantha Aquino, combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps, Caitlin Hetrick, IAVA member and U.S. Navy veteran. We could not be here today without your expertise and your stories. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us today so that we can all better understand the burden of migraines. There is a stigma around migraines and headache disorders, a clear lack of understanding of their debilitating pain, which impacts all areas of life. Many veterans are suffering, and Congress must increase funding and research to combat the stigma and make a difference in the healthcare of veterans. Because it's long past time that we prioritize your health and your well-being. That is why I led a letter to the House Appropriations Committee to expand funding for the Veterans Administration's Headache Disorder Centers of Excellence. I also urged the Appropriations Committee to include $50 million in the HEAL initiative that targets research on headache disorders in the Labor, Health, and Human Services fiscal year 2022. Finally, I've led a resolution to recognize June as Migraine and Headache Awareness Month, because with more awareness comes more results in Congress and beyond. We are forever indebted to each woman who has served our nation bravely and selflessly. Thank you for being here today, and I look forward to good work and change that will come out of our meeting.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Dean, for your leadership and bipartisan efforts to improve the lives of women, veterans, and women living with migraine. It is now my pleasure to welcome our first panelist, Dr. Jason Zico, National Director of the Headache Centers of Excellence at the Veterans Health Administration and Director of the Headache Centers of Excellence Research and Evaluation Center. Dr. Sico is a board-certified neurologist and primary care internist within the VA Connecticut healthcare system, providing both specialty and general care services for veterans with neurological disease, specifically headache and ischemic stroke. In these roles, Dr. Zico works closely with the Headache Centers of Excellence Clinical Enterprise, which is tasked with improving headache care delivery and understanding the epidemiology and role of military exposures in headache among veterans. Dr. Zico.
Cindy, thanks so much for the kind introduction, and thank you, Representative. And also thank you again for allowing me to speak on a topic that is near to dear to my heart. So I've been working within the Veterans Health Administration since 2004, and I come from a family of women and men veterans, as well as several of my cousins that are women that are active duty as we speak. And many of them have had migraines or headaches associated with traumatic brain injury. So being able to speak in this capacity to understand and share with you what we know so far about migraine headache among women that have served and being served by VHA is near and dear to my heart, both sort of personally and professionally. So I want to thank you again all for this opportunity. So some of the things that we do know that since 2008, more than 300,000 women veterans with headache have gotten care within the Veterans Health Administration. And then almost 200,000 of those same women have been diagnosed and being treated with migraine headache. Some of the things we know about the women that VHA is serving that have migraine, most are of the ages of 25 to 34, and then 35 to 44. So we know that migraine is considered a disease where it really affects people in the most productive years of their life, when they're in school, when they're parents. And as we see here, that same trend is very similar within the Veterans Health Administration. We also know that about a half of women veterans with migraine are white, and about 30% are non-Hispanic Black. In terms of also understanding who cares for, who serves women veterans with migraine, So an overwhelming majority are seen in primary care, and this also includes women veterans that are seen in women's clinics for headache visits. A bit more than half of all women veterans with migraine will get care from primary care, as well as a specialist that has additional training in headache. As mentioned, I'm a neurologist, so one of those types of headache specialists are neurologists like myself, and a little bit more than a third of women do get a visit with a neurologist to help manage and understand how migraine is impacting their life as well as the lives of their loved ones. A little bit more than a quarter of women also will need to use the emergency room at some point in time because of how bad the migraine pain is to get adequate pain relief. So if you were to look at all the Veterans Health Administration centers across the United States, and you were to sort of put a bubble on each of those centers, this is where the medical centers are that are caring for veterans with headache disorders. So here we see the number of women veterans with migraine by medical center, such that the bigger the bubble, the greater number of women veterans that are getting care in that medical center for migraine headache. Also, as was mentioned, I lead as part of a national initiative in terms of the Headache Centers of Excellence program. The red dots indicate headache centers of excellence that we have, as well as blue dots that are headache centers of excellence consortium sites, which is one of the means by which we're extending the headache centers of excellence care throughout the United States and for veterans. And considering where veterans with migraine live, almost a quarter live in a rurally designated area. Also, how are women with migraine headache getting care for their headache disease? So one of the things that we well know is that during the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had to make pronounced shifts in our lives, but also in terms of how we not only deliver healthcare, but how we receive healthcare. So on the top, we see unique patients that have gotten care every month for the headache migraine disease, and on the bottom, how they've received that care. So VVC or VA Video Connect is one of the ways by which I could see patients over telehealth sort of across the Veterans Health Administration. And as we see here, thousands of women veterans with migraine are getting care via telehealth modalities across the Veterans Health Administration. Here we also see that depending on the month, plus or minus around 1,000 patients, again, women with migraine still need to use the emergency room for their headache treatment. So we've also mentioned what we're learning more and more about in terms of burn pit exposure and potential associations between migraine and headache disease. So in working with our colleagues from the Burn Pit Registry, so across the same time span, we know that almost 1.8 million veterans in total have been diagnosed with any type of headache disorder, this both women and men. And then of those that have gotten care in VA, about 9,240 women have also registered in the Burn Pit Registry to understand more about migraine and headache disease among those that have been exposed to burn pit. So here we know that about 90% of women with headaches saw primary care providers. About 18% have received headache care in the emergency room, but then also much lower percentage, not seen on the slide, but 40% have seen sort of a neurologist or other headache specialist for their headache care. One of the things too that we know from the Burn Pit Registry is that compared to people in the registry that haven't had any burn pit exposure, that people that have had some and people that have had fair amount dependent on their duties, the greater the burn pit exposure, it does seem to be associated with increased rates of developing migraine headache that interferes with activities of daily living and their ability to live a good, meaningful life. So with that said, this is an overview of what we know so far about migraine headache among veterans getting care within VHA, and specifically women veterans. I have to say there's still so much that we don't know. So compared to women who aren't veterans, when women veterans have migraine headache, are there differences? Are there differences in how they experience migraine headache? Are there differences in terms of the care that they've received? Also, in terms of the differences among veterans, men and women that have migraine headache and the care that they receive. So we're just starting to understand this, and we're really just starting to understand associations between burn pit exposure and migraine headache among women veterans. With that, I'll turn it over to the next speaker, and thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sico. That was really interesting. And as you correctly pointed out, there are so many unanswered questions, and that is why we're here, hoping to raise visibility for this important issue. I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Eula Moore Marshall, a retired U.S. Army Reserves combat veteran. Ms. Moore Marshall is a third-generation war veteran and deployed overseas during the first Gulf War. She's retired from the Army Reserves, is a disabled veteran, and the mother of a teenage son. Ms. Moore Marshall spends her time supporting other veterans with their medical claims, as well as researching ways to improve how she can take better care of herself and others living with migraine. Eula?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the generous invitation. And it's a pleasure to be here. So this is my journey. I joined the Army Reserves to basically go to school. And I learned so much along the way, being introduced to the use of computers at that time, Lotus 123, and freelance graphics. All the while, my training also prepared me for the possibility of combat. And combat, you're a woman. Yes, believe it or not, I and others participated in war, and I've heard of headaches. I had heard of headaches, but never migraines. My migraine started after our arrival in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 1990. One morning I woke up, prepared for my day, and I went to work. All of a sudden I had to go to sick call, and the pain was so excruciating that I could barely function. It was noted in my medical file, and I was given pain meds, and I was sent back to the barracks to rest and later diagnosed with tension headaches. I gave notice to my military supervisor, and I left to rest. Not more than 30 minutes later, another soldier was sent to find me and to return to work. Well, as you can imagine, I was close to tears, but I returned to work with the captain giving me instructions on how to use Lotus 123. In a gas mask and in my chemical suit. In the military, nothing stops training unless you go to sick call or you're entering the hospital. May 15th, 1991, we returned home, given an adjustment period back to civilian life for about 2 months. I returned to work, and it was very difficult. There were nights where I camped out next to my toilet. Movement was extremely bad. There were nights when I would bend over and the pain was just, it felt like my brain was coming out of my head. At that point, I had to find out why I was experiencing pain 3 times a week and up to 4 hours a day. I knew these weren't ordinary headaches. MRIs, CAT scans, and physical exams all provided negative results. With no previous experience with migraines, the pain went from a band around my head to pain on the left and right side of my head, throbbing, tingling, aura, loss of sight, light, sound sensitivity, nausea, frequency, all pointed towards a diagnosis of migraines. I also received a letter from the DoD, Department of Defense, that there was no chemicals used, but it didn't have to. I'm sorry, my words are kind of scrambled here, but the letter didn't show that there were, they stated that there was no chemicals being used. And every morning in Dhahran, Arabia, there was a thick cloud that covered the entire sky, giving the illusion of a bad storm. By 12 p.m., we saw clear skies, and yes, there was a distinct smell. What is the smell? I don't remember, but it was a smell. We returned with so many ailments affecting us, the government called it the Gulf War syndrome. And in that list, wouldn't you know, headaches and migraines. What type of chemicals or particle makeup could cause us these type of damages to our bodies was my question. The military is similar to a civilian job, There are no excuses. You need to come to work regardless. If people can't see a visual pain, your visual pain, their response is, oh, you look fine. Or your headache can't be that bad. And I would say, oh, yes, it can. I learned that you have to fight for yourself, state your concerns for yourself. And once you learn to advocate for yourself, there's no more being nice, not wanting to rock the boat. My last employer, the Illinois Department of Human Rights, they were going to fire me because I only worked 2 to 3 days out of the entire month of June in 2010. That's just how bad my migraines had become. I continued to see my doctors, eventually took medical leave. I filed for Social Security benefits and I was denied. The previous Social Security judges who ruled in my case stated that in their own opinion, there was nothing wrong with me and that my migraines couldn't possibly affect me in that way. And to make matters worse, they were former military as well. I hope that our fight will lead to migraines being moved to the top of the list of major and extreme diagnoses. Migraines turns your life upside down, downside, sideways, loss of jobs, careers, family, and even it has driven some vets to suicide. My retired neurologist, Dr. JoBeth Jost from the Hines VA Hospital, labeled me as a migraine sensitive, meaning not every medication given to me will work. While I was in Saudi, I was given Midrin and Furnol. We endured a lot of pain, medicines that create havoc on our bodies. At the VA, we're taught mindfulness meditation. We're given acupuncture sessions. And currently I use a device called the Cephle device provided by the Veterans Administration. And it's an external trigeminal nerve stimulation device that sends tiny electrical impulses through an electrode. I place it on my forehead to interrupt the pain, and it sends currents to my nerve. That has worked better. Each soldier is different. Their pain levels will not be the same. Their experiences are not the same. So the meds prescribed will be different for everyone, but the common denominator is that migraine. Over the past 30 years, I've shared my experiences with many. My family knows how to react, and they know how to care for me in the instance of a migraine attack. We are also human weather dictators. And I have family calling to ask, is it going to be a storm today? Is it going to be light rain? As I close, I will continue to increase my knowledge and share that knowledge regarding migraines. I will continue to help veterans, civilian migraineurs, by supporting and helping when I can and where I can. Thank you all for your interest in our migraine lives. And I hope that we will continue to work towards the goals of finding a cure and passing laws that will make major changes in the workplace and our lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eula, for your willingness to share your story. You really helped us, those of us that do not suffer from migraine, to get a sense of the debilitating nature of it, and the challenges you've faced have been enormous. And again, this is really why we are here today. We're hoping to raise awareness and bring more relief. And we really appreciate your commitment and using your voice to educate the policy community and help others who suffer from migraine. Our next speaker is Staff Sergeant Samantha Aquino, a combat veteran currently serving in the U.S. Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Aquino joined the Marine Corps in 2007 and has served 4 deployments, including 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. In 2014, she was accepted into the Marine Corps Integration Program, a program created to analyze whether women could be integrated into the Marine Corps combat arms military occupational specialties, then only open to men. Staff Sergeant Aquino also was among the first women accepted to and to graduate from Armor Crewman Tank School in Fort Benning, Georgia, becoming one of the first women tankers in U.S. history.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sergeant Samantha Smith, or Staff Sergeant Samantha Smith, Aquino. So my story, like was said, I joined the Marine Corps back in 2007. I've been in for about 14 years now, still suffering from migraine on a weekly basis. In 2012, I was deployed to my first tour in Afghanistan, where I received a concussion to my frontal lobe. From there, I was knocked out for a couple of minutes, came to. After that, I was brought back to my room and I was told to just rest because I had the concussion. When I woke up abruptly in the middle of the night. I'm not sure what time it was, but it was dark out. And I was very agitated and confused, and I had no idea where I was or what was going on. So I left my room and I went looking for the aid station, which was maybe a half a mile away from where my room was. I ended up going into the female bathroom where I had seen a first sergeant from another unit. And she had asked me, she's like, back then it was Sergeant Smith. She's like, Sergeant Smith, are you okay? And I just got very, very aggressive with her. I was very mean. I was disrespectful. I was agitated. Not like my personality whatsoever. I'm very respectful in that sense. So she knew that. So she took me to the aid station, which was next door to where the latrines were. And she said there's something wrong with her. She had a concussion earlier today. So she needs something. And from there, I told the medics, I was like, I can't see. I just have a white blur in front of me. I have loud ringing in my ears. I can't, and I just dropped to my knees and just, I have no idea why I'm in so much pain, such agonizing pain that I've never felt ever before in my life. And so they finally took me in an ambulance to the hospital in Camp Bastion, Afghanistan, which is right next door to Camp Leatherneck where I was stationed. They did CT scans, MRIs, one thing after another, and eventually just said like, oh, well, there's nothing really wrong with you in any of these scans. So you probably just have a regular headache or whatever, and you're just being a baby about it. And I said, there's no way, like I've had headaches before and I'm pretty tough, and I'm well hydrated, like there's no way I'm having this is not a normal headache. I went blind, like I just had a white aura in front of me and I couldn't see anything. And so finally, years later, my Aunt Alicia, she explained to me what a migraine was. And I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I felt that day. And this is what I've been having occurring on and on and on. Like nobody's helping me. So finally, I now serve in another branch. And I went there and I have a neurologist and she's like, you have migraine. I'm like, oh my gosh, that explains so much. And it took almost 6 years for someone to diagnose me with migraine, to give me the proper medication for me to continue to do my job. I don't work in an office or anything like that. My job requires me to be in the field 24/7, weekends, holidays. My job is to close with and destroy the enemy. So that requires a lot of training on my behalf and with my team. If I can't be there and I can't lead my team, then there's no hope for futures in combat. I think that with the medication that I have now, I now know the signs of how my migraine is starting to approach. And I tell my team, I'm like, hey, there's something going on in my head again. I'm about to have a migraine. I'm going to take this medication, give me 5 minutes, and then boom, I'm back to normal. And we're fighting and we're executing. But it just blows my mind that it took almost 6 years for someone to diagnose me with to avoid them, so that way I can do my work for this country.
Thank you so much, Samantha. It's an incredible story and so depressing, honestly, that you had to go through so much. And you know, you're on active duty, as you said, 24/7 in the field. It's just hard to imagine what you've been dealing with, and the fact that it took such a long time to get a diagnosis. Thank you for sharing your story, your willingness. It makes such a difference for people to hear from you and from Eula to hopefully recognize themselves too, and be able to access treatment much faster. So thank you for joining us. Our last speaker is Ms. Caitlin Hetrick, Government Affairs Associate at IAVA and a Navy veteran. Prior to her current role, Ms. Hetrick served 4 years in the U.S. Navy as an aviation electronics technician. As part of the Government Affairs team at IAVA, she tracks and reports on federal and state legislation, legal matters, and government policies pertaining to the veterans community. In particular, she focuses on issues facing women veterans, such as healthcare and sexual assaults within the military system. Caitlin.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I really appreciate that introduction. As Cindy said, my name is Caitlin Hetrick. I am an Associate of Government Affairs at IAVA. I am also a mother of 2 and a veteran spouse. And I feel like that's very important to share, just because it helps to connect with other veterans. So IAVA is the largest nonprofit organization dedicated to post 9/11 veterans. And while that is definitely what we say, we like to make it known that we serve veterans of all eras, all discharge statuses. So it doesn't matter who you are or when you served. IAVA is available for you to become a member of, and where this really comes into play is our Quick Reaction Force. This is a 24/7 comprehensive case management program where veterans, military families, and even active duty service members are able to call in when they're needing assistance with anything from financial assistance to maybe accessing VA benefits. And I will post the link to that form in the chat. It's open 24/7, 365. So if anyone is needing any assistance, they're always able to contact the Quick Reaction Force. So today I'm going to be discussing one of IAVA's connections with women veterans, and just specifically also veterans and migraine, and how we advocate for one of the causes of those, and that would be burn pits and toxic exposures. For many years, burn pits has been a top priority for IAVA, and passing legislation that helps veterans to obtain presumptive benefits because they were exposed to those toxins is of utmost importance to us. So burn pits were a common way to get rid of waste at military sites in Iraq and Afghanistan, particularly between 2001 and 2010. And we still don't know all of the effects of those burn pits. During the global war on terrorism, approximately 3 million service members were exposed to burn pits. And what these were giant pits in which they would throw away anything that you can imagine, from batteries to human waste to food, and they would pour jet fuel over it and light it on fire, and someone had to be there stirring the pot at all times. And so this would be burning day and night while you were sleeping, while you were eating, while you were exercising, at all times. And so, as we know, even cigarettes cause a lot of different types of health conditions, as would something that is burning with all of these other types of issues. According to our most recent published survey, 86% of our members were exposed to burn pits during their deployments, and over 88% of those believe that they already have or may have symptoms because of that exposure. And that's really important for me to highlight, because at VA, barriers to care are very apparent. And currently, VA does not fully recognize claims connecting injury or illness to burn pit exposure. According to VA, 72% of disability claims for toxic exposures are still being denied. So even if you feel that what you are going through, that your migraine is connected to that, it is up to you to prove that that is also the case. According to VHA, 22% of veterans whose duties involved burn pits reported ongoing functional limitations due to migraine. Again, as I said before, that 72% of disability claims being denied is just very important, because as we have almost a quarter of our veterans who are experiencing migraine being connected to those burn pits, we know that many of them probably are not even receiving disability benefits as a result of that. And so it's very important to highlight, just because of the connection there. So what can we do about this? What is IAVA doing about this? How are we trying to combat this issue? And so right now we are focusing on two very important pieces of legislation, as well as trying to create awareness through storytelling about this issue. So the first is the Honoring Our Pact Act, which was introduced by Congressman Mark Takano, who's the chairman of the House Veteran Affairs Committee. This legislation establishes a presumptive service for 23 respiratory illnesses and cancers related to burn pits and airborne hazards. It does not specifically list migraine, but both of the pieces of legislation that I will touch on include a piece that it doesn't have what I would call a catch-all, but it also does list any other diseases or illnesses related to these toxic exposures. So as we research more and we gain more information, then linking migraine and making sure that veterans exposed to burn pits that are experiencing these types of issues receive the benefits that they deserve is really going to help. The second one is the Warfighters Act, which is introduced by Senator Gillibrand and Rubio in the Senate, and then Congressman Raul Ruiz and Brian Fitzpatrick in the House. And this one also establishes that presumptive benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits. And how this one goes is there is 2 columns. If you experience one illness and you obtained 1 campaign medal, then you will receive those benefits. Again, migraine is not specifically listed, but it still has that piece in there that discusses any other conditions that the secretary deems necessary. And so as we create more awareness for this issue and we ensure that veterans who are experiencing this have a voice, that's not going to be, you're not going to be able to ignore it. So obviously, there's a lot that we don't know about the effects of burn pits and other toxic exposures, but migraine has been connected to toxic exposures by VA already previously. So we want to make sure that veterans who are experiencing this and who have been exposed to these toxins are receiving the benefits that they deserve. They fought and they were willing to fight and they did as they were told. And so VA needs to ensure that they are receiving all of the benefits that they were promised when they chose to sign up and serve. I thank you all so much for allowing me to come and speak, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Really appreciate your timely remarks, given that Congress is, and certainly both the Veterans Affairs Committees, House and Senate, have been working to address toxic exposures. And so this is a timely discussion, and we appreciate your explaining some of the legislation that's related, that's pending. We're going to move to questions, and I think I'd like to just know a bit more about the degree to which each of you, and this is really a question for all of our speakers, including Dr. Sico too, how much are you hearing about migraine and headache disorders from women veterans in your networks? Is this something being talked about widely? We're just curious, you know, there's a migraine stigma that is well known for women and men, and just curious what your experiences have been. And whoever would like to start. Caitlin, you look ready to jump in.
Sorry.
And then I'll go to the others.
So I definitely think that we do not hear about it as much as we should. As you said, there's a stigma that comes with experiencing migraine, and there's a stigma period when it comes to women who have pain asking for help. And I feel like this, this just comes from not wanting to complain, wanting to make sure that, you know, I served in the military, I can tough it out. And so we don't hear as much about it. And there's also there's so many other things that people are experiencing. I don't need to be seen for this because it's just, it's a migraine. I'll go get some help, and then, you know, I'll go on with, I'll see how I feel the next day, when in fact it's debilitating. And women veterans disproportionately are single mothers also. And so the amount that could be having to juggle both children and experiencing this debilitating condition is just, it's insanity. So I think that we should definitely be making it known that if you are experiencing this, or if you are having these types of pains in which you don't have an explanation for, that go be seen. Don't try to be a hero. You were already a hero, and now it's time for VA to take care of you and the medical field to take care of you. You did your part.
Thank you. Well said. Jason,
Yep.
did you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think to follow up on that also. So I, several half days during the week, I'll see veterans with every type of headache disorder. So in my network, I hear it a lot. And I have to say, though, that I wish that I got to meet some of the women veterans with migraine. I wish I could have met them sooner. I think some of the things that we've heard from the stories that have been shared have included, you know, not taking, so sometimes healthcare providers not taking someone seriously, saying that it's just in their head, saying, well, we took a picture of your head, and that CT or that MRI, that looks completely normal, so there can't be anything wrong with you. And even just in terms of waiting 6 years to get the right diagnosis. So often that I wish that I've met people sooner, or that they've met people like me that have additional training and headache to make the best diagnosis. But also, I think a big part of what we do in terms of helping to understand how migraine and headache disease is affecting someone's life is to connect with them. But also, usually when I meet someone, I thank them. I thank them for sharing their story, because oftentimes people are reticent to share their stories because when they've shared it in the past, they haven't gotten the kind of help that they've needed and the kind of help that they've deserved. So I typically start off by thanking them. And then I'll share that their pain is real, and I believe that. And their experience with the migraine pain and other symptoms that come along with migraine is quite real. And I recognize that it may not only affect them, it may affect their family, their loved ones, those that care most about them. And it affects their way to meaningfully interact with the world around them. So I unfortunately hear stories like this all too regularly, where people go months, years, decades without the right diagnosis. And if you can't get the best diagnosis, the most accurate one, oftentimes that means that you're not getting the best treatment. And especially in this day and age, when since 2014, there's been more than 20 new FDA-approved treatments for migraine and other headache diseases. So there are literally dozens of new treatments, as well as many that are tried and true that are quite helpful. You know, as was mentioned in terms of the Cephally device, it's really fantastic. It could be used during the throes of a migraine attack. It could be used at night to help on a daily basis to help prevent headaches from happening. And sometimes it helps people sleep. So, and I think being able to have different treatments once we make the best diagnosis is so important. And they also have to be a treatment of treatments that resonate with a veteran's values and preferences. So I think maybe just another comment is that if you don't think that your voice is being heard, find someone else to share that story to, because you will find that person.
Wow, thank you. Hopefully like you. Samantha or Eula, do either of you?
Yes, hi, Sergeant Aquino here. So going back to what Dr. Sico said, trying to find someone to believe you. In the VA, or maybe not the VA, but just military doctors in general, they're very reluctant and very very anti-able to help you. They want to push things away. I go in and I say, hey, my knee hurts, my knee hurts, my knee hurts. And they're like, it's all in your head, it's fine. Just take some ibuprofen, drink some water, call it a day. And I'm like, no, in fact, that I actually have fractures in my knees. It's like trying to pull teeth just to get help. And when we talk about migraine and people who don't know what migraine is, and for medical professionals in the military who don't want to believe that migraine is a thing, and people are suffering, they're suffering from migraine. And it can be as, like, for me, it was as simple as rizatriptan. Thus, it fixed me. I take one rizatriptan and I'm cured for the rest of the day. And it's amazing how that worked for me. And I know that doesn't work for everybody, but for me, it did. And there's so many other people out there that they just think that they have a headache. And because their leadership and their commanders, they're just like, oh, you're just dehydrated. You just need water. Because all of a sudden, everybody in a leadership position thinks they're a doctor. And like all the doctors in the military think they know the best. And they don't. They really don't. And until you have a doctor that actually cares, you're not going to go through. And that's the problem we face with military medical. Like, for example, when I was in labor for 80 hours. Why are you going to make someone go into labor for 80 hours? Come on now. And it's like, the doctors just don't believe you. It's insane how they just don't believe you and they push it off. And I think we need to fix first what is happening on active duty, and then also with the VA and with veterans as well. We need doctors and medical professionals to believe their patients, regardless if the patient is lying or not. They have to believe the patient, and they have to do something about the pain. Even if they can't find it on a CT scan or something, they have to do something.
Thank you so much. That was really illuminating. And I can't help but notice chronic pain for women, period, is always a big issue in the women's health community and not being believed. And I can only imagine it's magnified that much more within the military, and the reluctance of those serving to also admit to being in pain. You know, it doesn't fit the picture of what you want to be and are. And so there's a lot going on here. Eula, did you want to add anything?
Oh, sure. Thank you. As Sergeant Aquino pointed out, the unbelief that you could be in pain is real. She's currently serving. I served and retired, and the same actions are still going on. So something needs to be changed. That's why I was speaking earlier that migraines need to be placed at the top. You know, just like with diabetes, the diagnosis with diabetes or high blood pressure, because it is real. You may not be able to see it, you may not be able to feel it, but it's there. And it seems like the only people that know exactly what you're talking about or how you're feeling are other migraineurs who have gone through that experience or going through that experience. I find that with helping other veterans with their claims and in conversation, you know, especially with Black women that have served, we don't speak up. We place that bag on our shoulder and we keep stepping because we have to take care of our families. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to do our job, whether it's military or a civilian. But along the way, we need help. And I find that I've had another female veteran that I served with in Gulf War. She has migraines, never said anything. And it's just disappointing because it's like, we should not feel that we have to hold all of that in. You know, we have to seem strong. We need to be able to say, okay, this is how I feel. You know, what can you do? What can you do to help me get rid of this pain so that I could go forward and focus on what my job is, or, you know, to help me move along. But I'm just hoping and, you know, praying for a cure, and also teaching your family, teaching your friends. That took a long time. And I have a great support system with my family now. They couldn't see it, but with my actions, being around them, they started to notice a pattern. And they started to just reach out and say, okay, we don't know what you're going through, but we're there with you. We're there to support you. And that feels good, even with the friends. But like I said, just to be able to share my experience with other veterans, that gives them the opportunity to say, okay, now I know what to do. Now I know that I'm not by myself. Now I know, you know, that these are the questions I need to ask my neurologist. My primary doctor, you know, these are the questions or the actions that I need to take in order to get to further my treatment or to get treatment. So it's a long road, but we've improved a whole lot. So I have a lot of hope and a lot of prayers that things will get better for us.
Well, thank you so much. And certainly support is a whole nother aspect of this. You know, it's very hard to deal with something as challenging as migraine without support. And you all are providing that to so many. So we really are grateful to you for doing that with other women veterans. as well as educating families and those around you. So we are just about at the end of the time. In 1 minute or less, I'm going to just go around to each speaker. Just give 1 or 2 primary takeaways that you would like policymakers attending to consider. And we will just go in, I guess, go in order of speaking. So Dr. Zico, we will go with you first.
Oh, sure. Great. Thanks so much. So one common question that is posed to me in terms of how do women experience migraine differently than men? And yeah, I think some of the points were absolutely touched on. So women are absolutely more prone to develop any kind of pain, and that includes migraine pain. And when women have migraines, the migraine attacks tend to be more severe compared to when men have them. They tend to be longer. They tend to occur more often, and they're more likely to occur most days of the month compared to men. I bring that up because I want everybody to hear this, and I think this has been shared also in terms of it's your story, and being able to share how migraine is affecting you, your loved ones. You need to share that. And again, if you're not finding someone that's listening, share the story again. There are lots of treatments that are out there, and there are more and more coming in the pipeline every day. One that are helpful, one that help to control the pain, one that help people lead more enriching lives. And it's important to share the story and connect with someone that believes in you and believes how migraine is affecting your life.
Thank you. Ms. Moore Marshall, Eula.
I ask that policies are created regarding the migraines. Like I said before, making them a top priority, just like any other major illness. We can't, there are days, like even now I have a migraine. I may have a smile on my face, and that's what I normally tell people. I'm in pain, but yet I smile. But it's so important it's really important for migraines to be recognized because they affect so many people. And the more help we have, the more we're able to go out there and work and give our all. Because our employers will be able to see this is, just like they need treatment, they need accommodations at work, for rest periods, to be able to take, 15 minutes makes a whole world of difference. And if we have those policies in effect, then someone has to, they will take notice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sergeant Aquino.
Yes, hi. So in regards to migraine, just overall health, really need the military to understand that the better our medical is and the better they can running. We're not robots. We need medical attention, and they need to care. They need to be understanding. They need education in order to and who are already trained continue. You just lost all of that. My juniors, we need to be taken care of in order to everybody, they need to be aware of
Thank you. Unfortunately, I think our connection with you was not great during that little bit, but appreciate your being here, and we can re-record it if that's something you want to do. And Caitlin, if you'd like to wrap up.
Something that I think that policy makers should really pay attention to is just to listen. I mean, we've heard two inspiring stories today, both from a veteran and a currently serving active duty service member. And we need policymakers to listen and understand that this is not an uncommon thing. So many veterans, and specifically women veterans, are suffering from these types of ailments, and so many are afraid to come forward. So we need to make sure that we create a space where women veterans feel comfortable with talking about their pain and going and receiving assistance. And when it comes to the topic of burn pits, making sure that we let veterans know that you took care of our country, you were ready to take care of your country, and now it's time for us to take care of you. So we know you're going through this, and we're going to take care of you because of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think each of you really rounded out this discussion beautifully here at the end. So thank you to our speakers for taking the time to speak about an issue that deserves greater attention, and for being willing to share personal stories, which always is not easy, and for standing on behalf of the many women and men who suffer from migraine. It's so debilitating, as we heard. And as Congress continues its work on important legislation to improve women veterans' health care, we are hopeful this discussion and what you heard today has provided congressional policymakers with a better understanding of migraine, including links with toxic exposures, traumatic brain injuries among veterans. This conversation was recorded and should be available for viewing tomorrow morning at our website at wcpinst.org. Once this briefing ends, you will receive a survey, and we hope that each of you will take a few minutes to respond. Thank you again to the Bipartisan Women's Caucus leadership, both members and staff, our co-sponsors, DAV and IAVA, and Abbey and Lumbeck LLC for their support for this briefing. And finally, my thanks to Cynthia Ramos, Cheryl Williams, Kritika Sharma, and Vivi Ayer for their work to make this briefing possible. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much.